myself and my clients, the idea is leveraging your personal brand or your social media profiles in order to get more awareness, make more money, close more deals, and have more impact. There's a saying that we like to throw around in my circles, and the idea is that you are a producer, not a consumer, that you use social media, you don't let social media use you. So most people just aimlessly scroll on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube with no real direction or intention behind it, where the smart people that understand what social selling is has curated and intentional content that both educates and brings awareness to their target market so that they are able to have inbound leads coming to them from these social media profiles. So some of the biggest tips and tools I can give to people whenever it comes to social selling are the following. Number one, make sure that you have a professional personal brand. So what I mean by that is if someone looks you up or types your name on Google, they find you on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or LinkedIn, you need to make sure that your profile represents who you are in your company's terms or your company's eyes, or who you would want your client to see if they're potentially working with you. Unfortunately, most people that we see, especially whenever they come work with us, they have photos of them out at bars or photos of them at the beach or with women or with men or whatever it is. And while it's okay to sprinkle in a little bit of personal life in there, you have to remember these people are essentially using this profile as their first taste of who you are as a person and if they want to do business with you. And for that reason, we always recommend having a professional headshot, having a cover photo that shows some kind of authority. So whether it's you speaking on stage, you speaking at a mastermind, shows the different articles that you've been published in, and or even a call to action. So hey, if you want to join my free group, click the link in my bio, or hey, if you want to get access to this free lead magnet, click the link in my bio as well. So this is both showing yourself as an authority so people are willing to listen to you and trust you, and also maybe generating some leads from it as well. In addition to essentially the maintenance of your profile, you want to make sure that you're producing and posting content that's relevant to your target market. So a few different types of content I always recommend people to post. Number one is educational pieces. So whatever your target market is, let's say you're selling to real estate agents and you sell lead generation for real estate agents. Well, your post should be all about actionable steps that real estate agents can take in order to close more deals or generate more leads or turn leads into qualified buyers or sellers. And if you're able to actually give them utility, meaning that it's actually valuable content, not just high level fluff, and they take action on it and they have results from it, then there's a good chance they're going to reach back out to you and try to learn a little bit more from you. Second piece of content I recommend everyone start posting on their social profiles are case studies and testimonials, okay? These are my absolute favorite pieces of content out there, and we have at Scaling with Systems literally hundreds and hundreds of video testimonials and screenshots of our clients getting results, and I post them on a daily basis on my social media profiles. Whether it's a quick client texting me and telling me they've made a few $100,000 this past month because of us, or if it's someone saying, hey, I was able to go take my kids to school today and not have to worry about work because of systems. These are all different pain points and desires that my target market wants, and if I post these on my social media profiles, then whenever one of my target market sees it, then they're going to reach out to me and want to speak a little bit more so they can get the same results. The final tip that I have for optimizing these profiles is driving the right traffic to these profiles. So like a lot of people spend all this time and money creating this incredible website that only one person visits a month, and it's most likely their mom. You don't want to spend all this time and energy creating this content and then distributing it only for nobody to see it. And so that for that reason, you need to start driving traffic and engagement towards your social selling pages. So for example, if you're in Facebook, it could mean that you go into Facebook groups that have your target market in there and you start posting valuable pieces of content or interesting pieces of content that people go, oh, that's interesting, or that was helpful. What does this person do? And they click on your profile, and then boom, your profile does the job of social selling. Another example of this could be on LinkedIn. If you start doing direct messages every single day to your target market, whether you do it, you have automation do it, or you have a virtual assistant do it, the first thing anybody does whenever they get a message in their inbox is going to be, what does this person do, or who is this person, or who does this person think they are to message me? They click on your profile, and then boom, your social media profile, your LinkedIn profile, your Facebook profile, your Instagram profile does the job of selling them into why they should respond back to your message or why they should message you in the first place. So make sure that after you've created this incredible profile, we are getting targeted and qualified traffic to that profile so that I can actually do its job. Personal branding, I think, is a word that gets thrown around an incredible amount in today's day and age, and unfortunately, I think a lot of people don't understand what it means or they don't leverage it correctly. So to me, personal branding means that when people think of Ravi Abuvala, they also think of scaling with systems, they think of automation, they think of making millions of dollars after taxes, whatever the words are associated whenever my name comes to mind or whenever someone sees me in a video or hears that I'm going to speak on stage, they essentially know what it's going to be about. Now, the interesting thing is most people might not think they have a personal brand, but everybody has a personal brand. So if you don't have one, if you don't create one, then society or the marketplace is going to place one on you. So let's say that in your fraternity years, you were the drinker and you were the partier and you went out all night and partied every single time. Well, you might not have had that want to be your personal brand, but when everyone says, oh yeah, you remember James? They'll be like, oh, James is a wild animal. He's crazy. So James didn't even plan on that being his personal brand, but that's essentially the case. And if you tie it into business, it could be that, hey, maybe you have a sloppy profile, or maybe your company doesn't actually service your clients, or maybe the content you produce isn't actually intentional or thoughtful. Then someone goes, oh, that's just some guy making noise or whatever it is, right? And because it's unintentional, you don't really mean for that to happen. The marketplace is giving you that personal brand where you can be just a little bit more intentional with your personal brand and say, hey, I want to be known as the person that always delivers results. I want to be known as a person with hundreds of video testimonials. I want to be known as a person that really brings value to my clients. And if you make that a little more intentional through your content and your fulfillment of your services, then people are going to start thinking of you as that person, and that's going to become your personal brand. And then it's just kind of a perpetuating cycle at that point. So some tips for improving your personal brand kind of goes back to the tips for social selling in general. First of all, just make really valuable content, okay? Unfortunately, I think most people out there just make total fluff content, has no actual actionable steps inside of it, and so people are like, oh, here we go. Here's just another person just talking for talk's sake. Where if you can take your videos and instead of making them 30 minutes long with a bunch of filler content, you make them 6 minutes long and you give away the farm, right? You just have no intention of making any money from these videos in the beginning, and you're just like, hey, here's exactly how you do what you want to do, okay? And in the first 6 months of my company and the first 6 months of myself in entrepreneurship, I just gave away the farm. I just gave so much content and so much value, and I posted on my Facebook, my Instagram, my LinkedIn. I was only getting like 3 or 4 likes on every single video. I was only getting 1 or 2 comments on every single video, but I was putting the value out there, and then people were taking action from those pieces of content, and they'd reach out to me and say, hey, thank you so much for this. This was incredible. What else do you have? Or how can we work more together? Or this new problem arose. How do I solve that? And a lot of times I'd be like, the easiest way is to let us solve that for you. And then I would start closing deals from that. The second piece of advice I have for improving your personal brand is going to be around who you associate yourself with. Okay, who you're hanging around with. So we all know the saying that you're the average of the 5 people you hang out with, but that also translates over in your social media profiles. Okay, so if you have nobody else producing valuable or useful content and you're the only one doing it in your social circles, well, number one, you're not going to have any inspiration for new content, and number two, your growth is going to be very stagnated. Where instead, if you find people that are actually influencers in your target market, people that are actually crushing it, they may be ahead of you by a year or two and they have a large following, and you start reaching out to them, getting to know them a little bit more, even just one shout out, one feature on their podcast, one interview in their Facebook group can absolutely take you off as far as your personal brand is concerned, because now you're getting hundreds, if not thousands of your target market to go, oh, well, this person's hanging out with this person that I already know, like, and trust. Let me see what their content is like. And just like that, it becomes, once again, a perpetuating cycle of people now trusting you and then them telling other people about you as well. So tip number 2 is essentially to make sure that you find other people in your target market that are doing the exact same thing or doing something complementary, and then knowing them, getting to know them, complimenting them, and hopefully having them repurpose or share some of your content. So actually finding and identifying your right prospects online can probably be one of the most challenging things I see with my clients in scaling with systems. And the reason is because they're just kind of spraying and praying, right? They're just literally sending messages to every single person that has a pulse, and then they might get responses back, but then they get on the phone call and they realize that, they don't have the budget, they don't have the authority, they don't even have the need for their target market, or they aren't interested in doing it right now, and it's essentially wasted energy. Instead, what we really recommend doing is starting at the very beginning, the source of where you're getting these leads from, making sure they're hyper qualified, and that'll trickle through the rest of your sales process so that you're only speaking with, spending time with, and getting on the phone with people who are already at least relatively qualified. Once again, let's say you're selling to real estate agents. Okay, so we'll go back to this example. So instead of just typing in real estate agent online and just finding every single person, or just buying a list of thousands of real estate agents with no real filters on there, instead, a lot of the times what I recommend my clients to do is, okay, how do we know that number one, this real estate agent is actually selling homes, and number two, they have money to invest, or they already believe in online advertising or lead generation? And so for a lot of our clients at Scaling with Systems, what we recommend doing is not just buying this long list of real estate agents, but instead going to websites like Zillow or Realtor.com and finding real estate agents that are like their premier agents or their sponsored agents. In this sense, we know that these agents are spending money on advertising already. So we know that they either have money or that they believe in spending money on advertising. And that'll also lead you to believe that they're probably closing homes, because if you weren't making any money or you weren't closing any homes, then you probably wouldn't have any extra money to actually invest in advertising. And so both of those checkboxes can be ticked before we even send the message to them by just doing a few more minutes of upfront work before we even scrape the lead or find the lead online and then send them the message. Okay, so another example of that in the social selling scene could be you have all these free groups on Facebook. Okay, literally thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of free groups on Facebook, and they're free. They're exactly that, right? So all the people inside of there didn't have any barrier to entry in order to get information from there. Some of the best clients I've had, some of the best influencers and coaches and consultants that I've partnered up with in my companies have come from paid groups. So instead of just trying to get in all these free groups like everybody else is going, I'm willing to invest $1,000, $2,000, $5,000, $10,000 in order to get behind the scenes of a paid group of my target market, because these people have already invested in themselves. And once again, it goes right back to what I said earlier. I know in this paid group that they already spend a little bit of money, so they believe in, personal development, coaching, consulting, lead generation, advertising, whatever that paid group is about. And number two, they must be doing at least okay in business if they have the disposable income in order to invest in that. So instead of being just like everybody else and trying to find people in free groups or trying to find people just list of the cheapest leads you can find, spend a little bit of time up front in order to, or a little bit of money in order to find a lot more qualified prospects, and that'll trickle through your entire sales process. There's a few ways you can do it. Now, I want to tell you guys something right now that we literally talk about inside of my company all the time, and that's that there's not always a clear and direct ROI. Now, at Scaling with Systems, we believe in tracking numbers down to the penny and down to the number of messages that we send a day, the response rates, et cetera, et cetera. However, you have to know that some of the stuff that you're doing, there's not always going to be a clear and direct ROI. So what do I mean by that? Well, the content that you're posting, especially in the beginning, the utilitarian content, the stuff that's actually valuable to your target market, well, if you're just starting out, you might not get a whole lot of likes, you might not get a whole lot of shares. And I'll be honest with you, I have people message me all the time on my Instagram, my Facebook, my YouTube, and they say, hey, I've been following you for years or months. I've never commented or liked on anything, but I want to move forward with your program. I want to work with you. I see the value that you guys are doing. And so if I had just waited and been, oh, well, no one's commenting or liking on this, then nobody must be watching this. Well, then I would have never have closed those deals. So the first thing I need you to understand is that a lot of the stuff that we're doing, especially when it comes to social selling, there's not going to be able to be like, okay, because I did this, I made more money today. And actually the opposite of that is going to be, you're going to be compounding this essentially social selling bank account of just providing useful content, showing testimonials, and driving traffic to your page, that over time it's going to snowball. And then at one point, all of a sudden, there's appointments in your calendar of qualified people that have been warmed up, and you're closing deals left and right. And you're thinking in your head, how did this even happen? Where did I start doing things right? And in reality, it's gonna be something that you did 30, 60, 90 days ago that you didn't even track. That being said, some of the most useful stuff that we do at Scaling Systems or teach our clients are things around, making sure that we have 2 pieces of content going out every single week. We don't care about likes and shares and comments, but just making sure we have 2 really valuable pieces of content going out every single week. And then we start tracking number of messages sent per day. So how many outbound messages on the social media profiles are we sending out a day? And then another thing that we track is number of responses that we get a day. So we always look for anywhere from a 5 to 8 positive response rate. So 5 to 8% of the people that we're sending messages to, I want them to say something back like, this is awesome, this is great, I'd love to speak with you on the phone. If there's something lower than that, if I'm getting a 1 to 2% positive response rate, then I know that I'm either not sending quality messages or my messaging is not resonating with my target market. And also one of the other numbers that we track inside of our social selling funnel is going to be the number of booked appointments that come from the social selling profiles. So an example of that, or the really easiest way to do that, is just whenever someone books a time with you or whenever you get on the phone with them, just say, hey, where did you first hear of me? Or hey, what piece of content piqued your interest or made you think that I really was the real deal and made you want to book a time with me? And they're just going to happily tell you, hey, it was this YouTube video, it was this Instagram post, it was this Facebook Live that you did that really sold me on that. And all you got to do is just keep a little, a checkbox on a piece of paper next to you, or you can use Google Sheets or some kind of sophisticated dashboard, but you just need to be able to say, okay, some of the stuff I'm doing online, these social selling profiles and tips that Ravi hooked me up with, is actually ending up in direct booked appointments and sales from that. And when you can make that tie together, when you can actually hear the first person say it was because of this Instagram post or because of this Facebook post, that's all your brain needs to pretty much say, okay, the more I do of this, the more people I'm going to find like this and the more money I'm going to make. So there you have it, some social selling tips from Ravi Abuvala at Scaling with Systems. Look, make sure you guys are making your profiles client facing, okay? Your cover photo, your headshot, whatever your about me section is. Make sure that if you had a client land on your page, they'd say, hey, I want to learn more from this guy, okay? Second thing is make sure that you have the right content being posted to those profiles, whether they're useful trainings or whether they're testimonials and case studies. You just want to have them flooded on your social media profiles so someone can look back, hit on your profile, and spend the next 2-3 hours really getting to know you and your company. And then finally, we want to be really, really driving targeted and quality traffic to those profiles so that they can actually generate us appointments and close deals, which is what we are here for. Hopefully you guys got some value out of it. If you did, please feel free to shoot me a message on any of the social media platforms, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. You can just type my name in, Ravi, R-A-V-I, Abuvala, A-B-U-V-A-L-A, or if you want to learn a little bit more about Scaling with Systems, feel free to go to scalingwithsystems.com. We'd love to chat, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video.